Greetings, I am John the Verbose, and this is my YTpaganChallenge video for week 40 on do you believe in angels, demons, fairies, etc. Well, look how dark it is. I was out here an hour ago, and there are so many people out in this park because of how nice the weather is right now. And so there was somebody right leaning up against the tree back there, and I didn't really want to they were reading a book, and I didn't want to invade their space. They were out here before I was, so I let them have this area. And so then I came back here, and somebody was telling me the history of the park, and people keep walking their dogs by and talking, so late start. Anyway, demons, angels, fairies, personally, we don't have enough proof to say what's what. And so I am okay in saying I don't know. And I think being able to say I don't know is very scientific by itself. Of course, there's evidence for all sorts of things, but evidence is not proof. And a lack of evidence is also not proof. Let's just talk about ghosts. Or strange things have happened. Most of the time it's explainable. But I recall a time, when I was in college, we got into the library after hours, and there's a reason that there are no night custodians there, because they don't like being in there after the library's closed. The custodians actually clean and vacuum in the library while it's open, when it's supposed to be quiet. And so the the reason for that is because of ghosts. And so when they built the library, they basically put the library inside what at the time was the chapel building, which was as tall as a cathedral. And so they put 3 new floors inside the chapel. So the first floor was still the chapel. Second, third, and fourth floor were now the library. And I went to a Catholic college, though I was never Catholic. And there were nuns on the campus. There was a monastery as well. And so there were many nuns that were opposed to transforming the chapel into a library for various reasons. And because, yes, it really detracted from the architectural beauty of the chapel. And that may be the case, though that's not necessarily the point of a chapel, is it? And then there were others that they were opposed to it for various reasons, to say the least. And there were many nuns who died during the chapel's construction. During the chapel's construction, back in the 1930s, but also when it was remodeled in the 1980s. I think it took 4 years to finish the process. And previously, I think the library had been on one floor, which was the chapel basement. And so we snuck in there at night to just see if we could find some ghosts. And we did. Well, actually, she found us. And so I didn't know that one of the people that I was with saw exactly what I saw, but just in a different part of the library a few minutes apart. And so when I saw what I could only describe as a hooded figure, it was only about 5 feet tall, and it kind of loomed out from the corner of one of the bookcases in the library. And I saw that, and it's my first thought went to, it's a shadow person. And because I've seen those too, especially when I was growing up, the whole Hat Man and everything. So this was the first time I'd seen just a hooded figure as a shadow person. And so I was like, hey guys, who wants to get out of here? Because it did feel kind of creepy. It was very dimly lit at night. And so once we were completely out of the building, I kind of told them what I saw, and one of the other people that was with me so that they saw the same thing, just in a different part of the library. And so we thought it was very interesting that we both perceived to see the same approximately 5 foot tall hooded figure. And I remember there was a time that I told one of the custodians about it. And of course he was this very eccentric custodian. And he believed me. And I'm pretty sure he's seen it too. Well, actually what he told me was, you know who it is. That's one of the nuns in the monastery checking on you to make sure you are all right. and so just his eccentric innocence and the way that he said that, it was kind of creepy in its own way, like something right out of a movie, you know. It's always the custodian that believes you and knows what's going on. And then when my boyfriend and I moved into South Minneapolis a few years ago, the house didn't seem to be haunted per se, but creepy stuff was happening. And I remember, it's like when we were cleaning through the house, I was always wondering why there was this cabinet in the basement, in the back corner of the basement, beyond, like, it was like one long open basement room, and it was unfinished. I mean, it was like the cement floor and cinder block walls and everything, and it was like in the back, past the furnace area and the washing machines, and that end of the basement was mostly empty, except for one thing, and it was this cabinet up against the wall. And the cabinet looked like it was probably 100 years old. The house was only like 60 years old. And so I remember I opened it once. There's nothing inside it. And so I think it was the house's soul box, that the soul of the house resided in there. And perhaps, I can only speculate, that cabinet was there in the house that existed before. And I mean, I don't know what it was. For all I know, it was a Dybbuk box. Google that. So, yeah. But I remember there was one time one of our other roommates moved out, and so the first thing I did was, it's like I just lit some sage, covered up the smoke detector with plastic, like a plastic bag, and just let the sage smoke fill the house. And then I turned on the fan of the central system thing, and then held it up to the air vent, and then saw the air getting like sucked, all the smoke from the sage smudge getting sucked into the air vents. And then I was like laughing maniacally, knowing that my house was being cleansed by the furnace itself. And so things were a little bit less tense after that point. And that cabinet, it was a really beautiful cabinet, and it probably had a lot of dry rot in it, and it was probably worth something if it was restored. But I remember when time came to move out, we were clearing out, checking through the basement. That was the last thing I was looking. It's like as I got down into the basement, I had my eyes fixed on that Dybbuk box, and I was watching it, and I was like, no, you're staying here. And so whether or not the house's soul or something was residing in it that was the source of all the creepy things in the house, you know, I really say the house just had a lot of memories. It felt that sometimes I could pick up on the house's memories. So it didn't feel so much that it was haunted, but something was up. So that's all I'm going to talk about tonight. Thank you for watching my video, and we'll see you next week.